We're back.
We're
Long
back.
time no see.
Hello again, everyone. It's been a hot few hours. But we're back, and after many life changes and many circumstances, I'm now in. I wasn't outside of Chicago. Now I'm in my own apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I will be.
I am a fellow North Carolinian, so it is very exciting for me to know that he lives in the worst city in the entire state.
Like, I mean, Charlotte is a nice city. Ultimately, the problem with
There's nice
Charlotte.
stuff there.
Yeah, the problem
The
with
problem
Charlotte
is
is
the
that the
city
connective tissue,
planning.
the connective tissue like, it, I that probably isn't going to show up well in the recordings. Me sighing directly to the microphone, but Charlotte has probably the worst urban planning I've ever seen. Like the streets are just slightly too narrow, which means that people can't drive past each other. Like and this goes for parking lots as well as streets. So parking lots are nightmarish. Um, everything winds, everything never goes. I've gotten lost in a parking lot here in sight of the exit. But I just could. I had to like go around past where I could see the exit in order to get to a place where I could drive out. And the time I did try to drive out, I drove out and realized I couldn't turn the way I needed to. So I had to go back into the parking lot and get lost again to actually go get where I needed to go. And that's Charlotte, North
But
Carolina.
yeah, but that's now we've got a little story here. We have the leader of the cult of Aten, and we have this strange man who we've seen before, who really only becomes important many videos from now in South Africa.
Yeah, God, way past where I played. Like once we hit Tokyo, we're gonna be in stuff that I barely know. By the time we hit South Africa, I stopped playing long before then. So it's all gonna be new.
Oh god, you're gonna love the end game of Tokyo because it is some straight out of the Hebrew Bible shit.
Oh yeah, I never made it, but I've read about it. I am going to have a lot to say about various notable figures.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
So considering that how I've been talking about Judaism for the past several videos, and we don't even remember exactly what we've covered. So
Yeah, so
well,
these folks are clearly having a little
Yeah.
disagreement. Man, I don't know why the black guy thought this was a good investment, considering he's propping up a religious nut.
yeah,
They're clearly just each is waiting for the other to backstab them.
yeah. Yeah, they're standard villains, which means that they're going to murder each other. Poor Akhenaten.
Well, it's not really his fault, it's more the evil oil gunk.
No, I mean like the historical one, not this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, poor Akhenaten was a reformer. He was a really weird dude, but he wasn't like
Insane.
Yeah, he wasn't connected to dark dreaming beings that infest people and turn them into filth monsters.
That we know of.
That we know of, I suppose. You know, like, I guess there's always room for doubt.
And this is essentially what used to be in every Assassin's Creed game. Follow the guy just close enough that you could still hear him, but just far enough away that he doesn't see you.
Mm-hmm. With the eyes in the back of his
It
skull
was
that
the
only
worst.
see 50. Yeah, it sucked.
It was the worst part of every Assassin's Creed game. I am so glad they fired the guy whose job was to put it in every one of them.
Yeah, God, there are better ways to deliver exposition, and granted, you know, doing so through menus is not that much of an improvement, but at least it's not as annoying.
See, I like Metal Gear Solid's version, Metal Gear Solid 5's version, the codecs that are all like optional that you can listen to while you're doing other shit.
Yeah, like audiobooks.
Yeah,
Not like audio,
I'm
but like
sneaking
audio
around.
logs.
Yeah, I'm sneaking
audio
around. Let me
style.
put something on in the background that gives me lore.
People make fun of audio logs a lot, but it is as long as it's not overdone and as long as you can hear your surroundings and it's not so distracting that you can't. does make for much better game design than most kinds of info dumps.
I mean, I'm one of those people who actually enjoyed BioShock 2, so...
I liked BioShock 2 too. That was actually my first BioShock game, so I didn't know any better. But it wasn't.
I liked it. It was a good mirror to the first game.
Yeah. And
the first game's all about individualism, and the second one is all individualism
to the extreme.
Individualism to the extreme, and the second one is all about community to the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
He's just trying to put all these great people into one body to create an Ubermensch, just like in the first game he was creating an Ubermensch.
From one man in a fedora to another.
And here's our mummy friend.
We honored our deal, but the time has come for us to part ways.
With his nice Oxford accent.
I love that part. Like,
yeah.
Of course, the mummy, the ancient mummy, speaks with an Oxford accent.
Yeah, I mean, like,
they will all fall in the end.
I don't know if it's this video, but I can't wait till we meet the Harry Potter XP.
You don't understand the consequences of
no,
your actions.
Harry Potter. That would be. Wouldn't that have been? Is he in here in Egypt?
Yes, he is the young man in the glasses who's with the elderly Oxford professor.
I don't remember Harry Potter trying to sleep with Snape, or with Dumbledore, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, they're obviously in a gay relationship, but when I looked at it, I was like, come on, that's totally supposed to be Harry Potter.
I didn't pick that up. I mean, he
just looks really similar.
We'll get there. We can talk
yeah,
about.
We'll get there.
We'll talk about the Young Turk when we get to it. But
basically, these folks are just arguing, and the mummy's like, "Dude, I'm like 5,000 years old. You're nothing."
5,000 years old, and I like getting high, and that's all I do whenever I have the chance. I don't care about whatever weird agenda
religious
you have.
nonsense you're talking about.
Who knows what we will do? So choose your allegiance wisely, dead man.
He is a Fallout ghoul, except 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years old.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
he does mention like sleeping with women, so I'm assuming there's either a glamour or he just waves a lot of money around.
I think it's both.
Money's an aphrodisiac. Why do you think people sleep with Boris Johnson?
I do a drum roll. I don't think the mic would pick it up.
Always something to prove. I trust you caught the gist of that conversation.
And of course, he's smart enough, he's savvy enough to know, yes, there is a man listening into my conversation. I bet this man hand rolls his own cigarettes.
He does seem like the type. Like, God. Do you think he owns the plantation that he imports the tobacco from?
I think he's owned the plantation, like, through a proxy for, like, 3 generations or 4.
I don't know. Well, I think he's owned the holding company that owns the company that owns the plantation. Roughly since the British arrived in Egypt. Yeah.
So, there's something I want to mention that I literally just thought of, and it's how there's a lot of political stuff happening recently, and I don't want to talk about it, but what I do want to mention is how secret world is that QAnon shit?
It's like...
It is exactly the sort of thing you would see in the secret world.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a big conspiracy by the filth infecting the computer networks to turn people into stuff.
Well, okay, granted, the secret world has enough taste not to feature, like, pedophilia. So
yes.
That's my prime hesitation. Like,
there is a lot of accusations in the QAnon shit, but
yeah, that for me that is the golden standard. If that is how you know that somebody is creating a charge, no one on earth will defend a pedophile, and defending a pedophile will always make you look bad. So that is how you paint someone as an enemy who can't be defended. And sometimes
I was thinking more it's just the nature of QAnon. It synchronizes all of these different conspiracy theory traditions into one.
Mm-hmm.
and it's made by random gobbledygook on 4chan.
Yeah, that claims to be hidden, like, stuff smuggled out of government conspiracies. But, like, look, the one QAnon guy, the guy that's closest to Q, is that one guy who died back in Solomon Island. And, like, he did the video log.
Oh yeah, him. Yeah, he's totally a...
That guy would totally be talking about all sorts of political things we don't want to go into if he was
Yes.
in the real world. But as it was, he was in the secret world and died horribly.
I can just imagine like you being sent into this shadowy cyberpunk-esque world of weird crap going on by your handler.
Yeah. Oh God.
Like, you meet up with someone and they're just like a normal conspiracy theorist, and then you follow the threads and they're being manipulated by someone from the secret world.
Yeah. Well, yeah. In the like, are you talking about like the stuff? There's Q stuff is like a mask for the secret world shit, rather than actual secret world shit.
It's more in the secret world. I would expect Q to be a thing and to be closely tied with whatever enemy you're facing.
Yeah. Okay.
I would expect an entire chapter in world space based on QAnon.
Yeah, I can see that.
Devs, make it happen.
No, God, please no.
They're not gonna make anything happen. There's like 3 people who still work on this game.
Yeah, this is. I remember watching.
This is a dead game.
I remember watching the City of Heroes LP a while back when that was closing down. Oh hey, it's my great uncle.
Yeah, that's Cohen, right?
How prone
yeah.
these people are to evil.
Yeah, that it's either great uncle. Okay.
Many times.
I want to pay
Yeah, 'cause
attention
you're-
to him.
May change, but
you're-
places do not.
I'm
That
so yeah.
particular Jewish priestly
Okay,
class
so I'll
that no longer has a role, but is
Okay,
still
I'll-
kind of
okay,
important.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and break it down again. So okay.
Their minds
Um,
clouded.
Long
They
story
are in
short,
the grip of the dreamers. They are
there's
no longer
if you
human.
the biblical Aaron when he was made high priest, like Moses' brother, high priest of Israel, given all sorts of privileges. He and his male line descendants were part of a caste called the Kohens, and they were in charge of handling like the high level religious ceremonies, because like Judaism is the kind of religion where you can't hold anything more than the most basic of prayers without at least 10 like initiated adults in the room. So they were in charge of overseeing a lot of stuff. The temple fell, the diaspora set in. We all went out.
Wait, so bar mitzvah as an initiation into adulthood is a post-temple thing?
Well, sort of. Look, I don't
It's an
know.
adaptation of an older ritual, then?
I think so. Like it's complicated. But yeah, you do
It's
have.
Judaism! The subtitle of Judaism is It's complicated.
Yeah, that's fair. But long story, it's not like post conquest Judaism is wildly different from pre. Like it's there's still a lot of continuity. There's more in more in common on a theological level than there is different. But the forms that it takes are very different because the situation's different. Like we cannot. It is impossible to. Okay, the way that I've put it before is, people talk about the covenant, like the Ark of the Covenant, and the covenant itself is, okay, and just to bottom line it, he's probably Moses, and as I am a Kohen, that means I am a direct male line descendant of his bro, so I do like thinking of him as uncle, just sort of like, it's, and like, it's like he might be Aaron, but probably not. Aaron's less famous. Aaron also like made a golden cat, like committed idolatry, and only got out of it because like God cut him the break. But then Moses also abused God's power, but that's another story. But anyway, where was I? Long story
You were talking about how pre and post diaspora Judaism are very different.
Yeah,
in how they act, but theologically they're very similar.
Yeah. Basically, like you've heard of the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
I'm willing to assume you've watched Indiana Jones enough. Like,
Yeah, I have, yes. I have seen that movie.
Yeah, the covenant itself is to boil down a complicated religious concept so far that it's inaccurate. A little inaccurate at least, is that if we preserve worship of God as was granted onto us, he will preserve us indefinitely. And that part of that contract is written, at least in theory, written down in the Bible as like, and you go through like Leviticus and Deuteronomy and you see all of these different things, like even though it was mostly passed down through oral tradition. I think I've talked in a previous video about how oral tradition is a little more trustworthy than people tend to think, but that's another story.
Yes, I believe you did.
And I'm saying that not as a Jew, but as a historian. But there are things that we are obliged to do that are no longer possible because the temple does not exist anymore, and it requires either the temple, the hierarchy, Kohen hierarchy connected to the temple, or both. There is no, however, there's no high priest, the direct eldest surviving male line descendant of Aaron. That's gone. We can't do the things that we're supposed to with him, except we're still around.
It's a similar situation to the Caliph of Islam. There's no direct descendant of the priest left, just as there's no direct descendant of Muhammad.
Kind of. The thing is, the covenant's still on, as far as we can tell. Because we're still around.
You aren't all. Yeah. Despite people's best efforts, you are not in fact all dead.
Yeah, and we've still maintained that coherent tradition. So we have to be able to. We have to be doing something right, or at least making some kind of compromise.
You are late. 1,000 apologies. But
yeah, as I believe one of the previous videos, you told that story about God laughing about being outlawyered by a rabbi.
Exactly.
So I imagine you're doing okay.
Yeah,
where God actually exists and whatever.
But God.
As I recall, you're not allowed to rebuild the temple. It's supposed to come back with the Messiah.
Kind of. Long story short, there's people. Let me put it this way: one of the things that can make hardcore Christianity really dangerous to Judaism is that, at least traditionally, the Jewish narrative of the end of the world ends with what's called the Messianic Age, where the Messiah comes down and unites the world in a peaceful and tolerant utopia for a while, as people basically put Earth's all their ducks in order before Judgment Day actually comes. And you may recognize that as what the Antichrist is supposed to do. And those are probably so that can be that's more than a little bit concerning for people who actually believe in that course of prophecy, because that directly incentivizes people against each other. Let me put it that way. But
well, you're Jewish. You don't have to worry about that because all the Christians will just give up when the Messiah comes. As you said, they'll put their ducks in a row. It won't be a problem.
Like the Antichrist. Well, remember, to the Christians, the Messiah is Jesus, and to the Jews, he isn't.
Well, yes, but we're speaking from a Jewish perspective here.
Yeah, but
from a Jewish perspective, there won't be an issue. The Messiah has come. Everyone will just get along.
I mean, yeah, look, honestly, this is the kind of theology I don't think either of us are actually qualified. Not even I am.
No.
Yeah.
neither of us are a rabbi.
Yeah, neither of us really have the chops to debate.
I don't think we have any rabbis on SA.
Oh,
I'm sure we have
No, I am absolutely certain. I don't know who they are, but I mean, look, we have all kinds of weird. I have yet to do an LP where someone who hasn't participated in the game in some fashion hasn't showed up. It's.
I wish we could get a real rabbi on here for this thing.
We almost are. They're just lurking.
Shout out to the thread. If you know someone on SA is a rabbi, tell him about this thread, because I would love to hear more about Judaism from someone who's spent their life studying.
Yeah, who actually knows what they're talking about, and isn't just But yeah,
I imagine he would not be offended at my primitive non-Christian ways.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Not that I'm Christian, but you know what I mean. I was
look,
raised
and
Christian.
hey, look, it's a brave look. Reform Judaism is a thing. Rabbi can be a she or even a they if they're a Reconstructionist. Don't judge. Don't make judgments. Like,
Well, I have you here without screaming slurs, so I'm pretty sure I'm not making judgments.
well, you're not making not making the worst judgments. So by far, by a country mile. Oh my god. But yeah, I would be like I am almost like
I
statistically
believe in the
almost.
original recording we did of this, which has been lost. This is where you started explaining Jack Black and Jewish male.
Oh, wonderful. You mean like Jack Batch, Jewish masculinity and
Yes.
trans men, and how there's a very close connection. And I
Yes.
remember going like I remember saying like, yeah, but I'll get to this later, and kind of going, no, you're going to talk about this right now. But
Yeah, go ahead and go over it.
okay, so
I only remember it because we were in this area in the first mission when we were doing this. So
yeah, so okay, long story short, there's masculinity and femininity. People talk about gender as a construct, and part of that concept is borne out in my experience because the Jewish masculinity and femininity, as traditionally constructed and valued, as I've grown up with, are really different from what Christian society seems to promote, from American society seems to promote. And yeah, there are differences there, but like from both aspects. Like traditionally, I think I'll start with women and then get to men, so I can end on a high note with Jack Black. Like traditionally, women seem to be expected to be demure and like to be deferential to men in their life, at least in like traditional Christian structures to some extent. And the traditional peak of Jewish femininity is someone who is abrasive, well-spoken, maybe aggressive is the wrong word, but assertive in conversation and in home life. Like, I remember listening to an audiobook by a professor. He was talking about Eastern European history, and he had a lecture on the Jewish world, and he opened by saying the shtetls, the small Jewish towns of Eastern Europe, were matriarchies. And I remember going, yeah, that sounds like my my mom's family, because women ran the structure of society. Men went out and worked, and women ran everything else. And that's not to say like traditional Jewish society doesn't have problems with misogyny, because it very much does. It's just that like that doesn't line up with what's traditionally seen as feminine, like from the vast majority of the people who are listening to this, what they were raised with. Like,
is this my one question is this unique to Ashkenazi Judaism? Is this also in Sephardic Judaism, or
kinda? I think it's mostly Ashkenazi, but
okay.
This is a cultural thing as much more than it is a religious thing, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were similar strains of thought in other Jewish groups. Judaism is such a debate-friendly,
diverse.
Yeah, like it's such a diverse religion. It's such a debate-friendly religion that it wouldn't surprise me to find like more egalitarian strains elsewhere. Not to say Ashkenazi society is always egalitarian, because it isn't. Like there are a lot of things that while women may run like family life and may do a lot of like household management, in the sense of the word economy started as a word meaning household management, men do make political decisions, do make social decisions, and are often traditionally the only ones allowed to learn how to breathe. Like, but that's the point. Just is expectations are very different, and for men, on the other hand, and a side note, if you've ever heard Jewish mother jokes or people talking about Jewish mothers, or like for a while when I was a kid, people would talk about Jewish American princesses as like.
Oh, my dad has a bunch of jokes like that because he used to live. First, he lived in California, in San Diego,
Mhm.
and then he lived in New York. in
Yeah.
the close to the Jewish part of New York in the 80s.
And
So he has a lot of jokes like that.
and the stereotype is young, entitled, think they're better than they are, And that's basically the stuff that those jokes make fun of are generally like traits that are prized in traditional Ashkenazi femininity. Like that's what a woman is supposed to be able to do and supposed to be like. A man, on the other hand, is supposed to not be like submissive per se, but be like not be like that either. Well, that sucks. Is supposed to be well spoken, collected, not muscly or aggressive at all. In part because, traditionally muscular and aggressive men who threatened other people to prove their masculinity were very likely to draw negative attention from the Christian authorities, let's say that. But like there's an emphasis on wit, on humor, which is part of where a lot of those a lot of Jewish comedians come out of, and on being employed and on being well dressed, and like being kind of respectable as much as anything else. And part that you see this manifest in odd ways around people like Jack Black, who does not at all meet. Well, I mean, I guess he kind of does in a couple ways, but he doesn't really meet traditional expectations of masculinity, the kind that most of us have been brought up with. But he is, and by Jewish standards, very masculine. He's wealthy and prosperous. He's a professional who's very, very good at what he does. He's respectful of women and able to get along with them.
He's eternal. What's another 10 minutes?
And
this is why I swore off Aegean girls.
Sorry, not laughing at
Jesus.
you. I just
Yeah,
like
I know,
his
yeah.
swear off Aegean girls.
Yeah, just something about something 20 years old, 20 years lost in the sea.
We had a deal on the table, then you cut another deal with a death cult. We want no part in that. Besides, Venice is called in the bees.
The mighty and ancient kingdom, afraid of a little sting?
I'm not taking on any new enemies at the moment.
You are making one right now.
I don't think he's
You
scared
made
of
a
you.
simple arrangement infinitely more complicated. My
I think-
advice? Get that ass of yours insured. It would be your gift to the world. Oh, please. We're above this. Well, one of us is. Gun oil, desperation, and cheap perfume. Tennis.
So what do you want? Huh? Money? Blood sacrifices? The spear of destiny? We have the wealth of Carthage. There must be something you want.
Goodness, let's not debase ourselves any more than we
I
absolutely
really hope
must.
the Phoenicians do not have the Spear of Destiny.
Honor.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Carthage is long sold out of
That would be
stock.
real bad.
You've made your sarcophagus.
I was about to ask, is that a thing in Judaism? Then I remembered it's central to the Christian
Yeah.
myth. Never mind.
Probably not. Odds are high.
Fucking mummies.
Okay, where?
I told you, they would all desert you.
And here.
They lack the conviction, and they will burn for it. Come, let us discuss our bright and shining future.
So
He's-
sleazy.
Yeah, he's.
So creepy. But you were talking about how Jack Black
Yeah. He is.
embodies Jewish masculinity.
At least to some extent, he really does. And the funny thing is, and I remember this, part of how it originally came up was we were talking about trans people, and Jack Black has a massive trans male fan base, in part because there's a certain, like, even if it's not traditional, what we think of as masculinity, you can kind of tell. You can kind of tell that there's something to emulate there. And a lot of trans men who do not like traditional masculinity, looking for something to define themselves by instead, see Jack Black be Jack Black and do all the great stuff that Jack Black does and find something to emulate in them. And I remember you talking about Germa too.
German 985, yes. He is half Jewish on his mother's side. He doesn't talk about religious topics. I don't even know if he practices. But he's a very popular Twitch streamer. He used to be a YouTuber. He's hilarious, in my opinion. He just did a stream where he'd been doing a bunch of tier lists, and basically someone said, well, you should try these products and tell us what you really think. So basically he got together all the products he'd said were terrible and tried them on stream.
And
And it was actually pretty interesting. There was another time he did a live action. He called it the Dollhouse. It was a live action Sims-like thing where he was controlled by chat.
Twitch plays Germo 951.
985. Yes.
985.
That was that's essentially what it was. He's done a carnival on screen where all the attractions were controlled by chat. So like he had a little thing that would let you fling balls at the target, and it was controlled by chat.
Mm-hmm.
Someone hit him in the face with a frog.
Good. And yeah, and it sounds like he's not he doesn't sound like aggressive or strong or assertive in a particularly ferocious way. But
he has a huge trans fan base, and some people have accidentally thought he was a trans male, like a female to male. For some reason, I guess he just gives off some sort of air.
Yeah, and that's part of it, because you have some like he's not afraid of he's not afraid of showing weakness or vulnerability.
Oh God, no! Oh God, no! He calls himself an e-clown.
Yeah, and that's something that's we kind of had to be able to show weakness and not have our egos suffer too much for it. Because if we had to go face to face with somebody who is big and imposing and Christian, we're probably going to come out on the bottom of that exchange. Even if, at least if we were hundreds of years ago, much less now, but you never know. It's so you have that sort of you have a very different version of masculinity that is still a version of masculinity, and a lot of trans people really appreciate that. So it's a very, very different world, and that's why Jack Black has a lot to do with trans people and through Judaism.
I honestly didn't know Jack Black was Jewish.
Mm-hmm. He is. He's. I've seen look, people. If you hear the word lizard in internet discourse applied to a person, it means that somebody's trying to hint that they're Jewish, and I've seen him called a lizard multiple times. Even if I didn't know.
Oh, I thought it was one of those lizard people crazies.
Oh, it's related. It's the same thing. The two conspiracy theories are closely connected. David Icke famously hates the idea and thinks that they're actual lizards, but there's a lot of, and he's the famous lizard person guy. But,
I know who David Icke is.
Yeah, in case you listeners don't, but
yeah, I'm just letting myself die here because I got trapped by a bunch of level 50s. They don't make people invincible, they just make them top level 50 with all the top gear and stats you can have, so they're impossible to kill, sometimes even as a level 50.
Mm-hmm. So it happens to the best of us, I suppose. But yeah, that's something that's one. It's the sort of thing they call a dog whistle.
Yeah.
It's.
I thought the current dog whistle was the 3 quotation marks.
That too, and it was New
Not
York.
quotation, parentheses.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, the parentheses. But they don't feel a need to keep themselves limited. These are not people who have any sort of humility or subtlety. Yeah, but yeah,
I can't wait to do the work for Moses because No, none of the Moses stuff involves time travel. That's the Egypt stuff.
Yeah, that's the later stuff.
Yeah. I think I try a couple times to get to that damn lore, but I never manage it.
Mm-hmm.
God, I have got a lot to clean up when I get back to recording videos.
Yeah.
There's just so much shit I still have to do in this area.
Yeah, there's this is not.
I think
it's an MMO.
I think I do just about everything plot based in this video. Don't quote me on that. The video's only half over. Khalid, that's what the
That's what he's going by at least.
yes. When I heard that, when I heard that name, I assumed he was somebody from Islam.
I mean, technically he is.
I mean, yes, but I
He's-
believe
he's-
he's
he-
still called Moses in Islam.
He's not called Khalid. He has a different name, and there's a whole thing around like Moses and Aaron. There, like I don't know the theology. I do know they're actually like it's separate from what Christians and Jews believe about Moses, and has its own set of implications and like stories. That, I just don't know. Yeah, I mean, not every lots and lots of people in this game are various figures from history or myth who go by code names. Not the least of which is
It gets to the World of Darkness issue. Do you know what that is?
yeah. I mean, well, are you?
The particular issue I'm thinking of, the particular issue I'm thinking of is everyone is special, so there's no non-special people.
Yeah, like everyone in history is a vampire, except for that guy who's a werewolf.
I do love their explanation for World War II, which is vampires are in charge of everything and manipulate the world, except for that bit. Apparently they were all asleep.
Yeah, except Hitler. It's like I found out the other day that they have like minions apparently like from the Despicable Me minions are like mortal or something and always serve the evilest person on the world, but they were all asleep in Antarctica for the first half of the 20th century, specifically so they didn't have to deal with that issue.
Yes, I love that fact. It's almost as good as the fact as I don't know if you know this, but there is a White Wolf, a World of Darkness game where you play as ghosts in the afterlife.
Oh yes, I've heard. Yeah, and there's a source.
They have a Holocaust book, which was reviewed by a rabbi, and it starts with his foreword, and his foreword is him being perplexed, like, this is very, like, sensitive and empathetic. It's still the weirdest thing I've ever been asked to read.
Yeah. And I remember Fatal and Friends in the Traditional Games Forum did a review of it and had the same reaction. It was basically, this is very sensitive, well written, and thoughtful, and this doesn't need to exist.
Yes. And at the same time, they put out the Gypsies source book, which is very much the opposite of that.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of buzzing in the mic for whoever edits this to fix out. I'm just sorry. I apologize in advance. It's just me. Like I'm using a headset that I shouldn't be using for this since it's a work headset. And my actual headset hasn't arrived. So mic happens to be right next to my face.
And this is the people I were talking about. This is an elderly man from Oxford. The special part of Oxford.
Monty!
And there's Harry Potter.
Oh, Indian Harry Potter.
I really do think I'm getting a touch old for this.
Like hell you are. They say you're only as old as you feel. And you feel...
Yeah, they very much make it obvious that they are in a relationship.
My partner,
it only keeps me out because he's his superior, his teacher. So there's an obvious power imbalance.
Taught me to always value precision, Monty, even at the expense of economy. I take it you're not here for the scenery.
That's our territory.
We have trodden carefully
Okay,
on this British
I'm
ground,
waiting
aware
for
of any mistake
Monty
that
to say
might
something, and then I'll reveal
unearth
something very
things that should
embarrassing.
remain buried. Not like those boorish Orochi thugs. We would have left a discovery of this magnitude undisturbed. Well, largely undisturbed. Those jackboots barreled over us with no thought to the consequences.
This excavation, all of the constructions in the valley, they are only
God, he does look
walls,
like Harry Potter.
markers,
That guy looks like Daniel,
an
a
antidote
knockoff Daniel
to a
Radcliffe.
second site, a
That's why I
massive
said Harry
complex,
Potter.
an
I
entire
hadn't really
city
thought about that.
sealed away.
Inside the mountains. Concealed from prying eyes.
And Google Earth.
Harry Potter would be
Only
so
now
much more
reached
interesting if it had
to a
this
creepy,
level of world building.
terrifying end.
Then again, it would be J.K.
You've
Rowling
heard of the
doing the
mummy's
world
curse?
building, so...
No.
Poppycock. Pure rot.
Yeah,
Yet
I
some
don't want
parts of the
those
past were
fingers.
buried for a reason. Never to be unearthed. Not for greed, for science, even
I
for
really want to
academia.
know. I really want to talk to the writers who put all this stuff together and maybe hire them for something. Because they do good work.
They do great world building.
I fear whatever is done to
I
stem
don't
the
like
tide,
I
it
don't
will
like
have
a lot
little
of the dialogue in
consequence
this
when a
game.
tsunami
Comes
awaits
across
on
as a
the
little
other
twee
side.
sometimes, and a little too pat. But it's an MMO. The
Very
sheer
silly.
mass.
It's fading. That means something.
Damn it, he
Okay,
didn't say
what were you gonna say?
Monty calls that guy young Turk a bunch, and for a while, I'm like, he's Indian. I don't remember his name, even though I just saw it because I'm terrible with names. I do know, I recognize that as an Indian name, but he keeps calling him a Turk, so I guess maybe he's Turkish. And for the entire course of my first time through this area, I thought he was Turkish because I forgot that young Turk is like a way of talking about somebody who has new ideas.
And it's actually that way because there was a faction of young Turks who were modernizers during the Ottoman
Yep.
Empire.
I mean, like, and the Young Turks are actually really complicated, weird, and also involved in the Armenian massacre. Armenian genocide.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not always a good thing to be at the on the cutting edge. But, well, lots of people.
Now, I believe the first time we were here, we were talking about food.
We were talking about food, and we were talking about Cairo, Illinois. I remember that.
Yes, because that's where some of my family is from. My mom's side of the family. And last time we recorded, yes, my mom had passed away. She passed away in 2019, so before we even started recording.
Yeah.
But we were talking about how the only way my grandmother could really show she loved her kids, given how horrible my grandfather was to feed them.
And food is love. And like,
And you mentioned that was very much a thing in Jewish households as well.
yeah, I mean, it absolutely is. There's a reason there's a lot of Jewish cuisine that's like comfort food that's made it into American cuisine. Like my grandparents got out of the camps and came to America to raise their kids, and having enough to provide for their family was always something that was really important to them, that they took very, very seriously. They almost never went out. There's like one restaurant they ate at. They prepared all their own food. They cooked all their own meals at home. And like that's something that they held to, you know?
Yeah. My grandma was a great cook, and my mom was a great cook, and my sister has taken up that tradition. I can follow a recipe, and that's about it. Like we got an air fryer recently, and that thing is fucking amazing. Like you could make anything. I make shrimp in it.
Yeah.
I just get a big bag of shrimp, marinate it, and then put it in the air fryer for 8 minutes at 400. Shake it a bit at the halfway mark. Boom, you got freshly cooked shrimp.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably not a thing for you because you're Jewish. I don't know if you keep kosher.
I don't. I really don't. Like I avoid pork out of residual discomfort, and I avoid shrimp because I do not like shrimp. Not because.
Oh, that's a shame. I love seafood.
I don't like shrimp. I don't like most fish either. But
Do you like shellfish?
I like squid. I love
squid. Calamari's phenomenal. I
Yeah.
love calamari.
Absolutely.
There's a new pizza place near us, and it's like fresh, good Italian pizza.
Oh God, I'm now that like I didn't know this. Now that I'm living on the East Coast, there's a fish boil place that's like 10 minutes where I live. That is just it's too rich for me, but it's too good for me too. They just do like Cajun style, and it's just oh my God.
My problem with that is I have tried everywhere in Raleigh. I have never found a place that makes it hot enough. I literally just got back from New Orleans. That's why I missed you last time. Is we were going to my family was going to New Orleans. It was fun, but the spice was not hot enough for me. It needed to be spicier.
Mhm. It's yeah, but I mean I'm not a huge spice person, so I don't care. Like as far as I'm concerned, it's good. But like food's like I'm sitting here now. I'm now running my own household for the first time in my life and learning. It's living a lot. At least one meal a day is a frozen meal because I just don't have the time or energy always to cook after work. But I will say, Food Lion is something different. Like all the grocery stores had expensive brands alongside the less expensive brands, and here the Food Lion has like I have one a few minutes from my house by car, in my apartment, and it has name brands and it has generic brands. It doesn't have much that's expensive or high quality, but it does have name brands even cheap, like cheaper than I've ever seen, and just like the same quality as anything else. That's mid range. Like right now, I have 8 2-cup bags of rice in my cabinet that I bought earlier today, for $2.50, including tax, because it's on sale. That's it expires in a month, which is why it's going out. But that's a month, and I eat a lot. So if I have like every day or every other day a meal based on rice, I'll burn through that long before any of it actually expires. And I'm happy to see that. I am still like I'm
You
learning.
will love Costco when you get a membership.
I don't like Costco food. We have Costco. We do not have Food Lions where I grew up. We did have Costco's. I don't like something about the food is not right.
Okay.
But Food Lion food works better for me, I will say. I am learning how to bake potatoes because that's a great way to make so that you don't have a tiny frozen lunch and that's all you have to eat. And you can just cover it, put a little olive oil and salt on it, put it on the rack for an hour, and then have a baked potato.
Yeah. I definitely urge you to get an air fryer. It is so simple to make stuff in. I can make a steak in 10 minutes.
Like I've had good experience with sous vide and I don't mind waiting.
Okay.
My dad is an air fryer
It's just
guy.
you.
He loves his air fryer to death. I find I don't like the texture very much of a lot of it. Like it chars, and for some vegetables that's really good. Like air fried green beans are the only way I will ever eat green beans. I hate them otherwise. But I just don't like I prefer most other forms of cooking done like, and I don't like toast things much, so I don't those mix air fryer whatever else mixes just replicate stuff that I already have or have stuff I don't want. It's like when I moved in here, I this complex you have to contract out to a certain like small internet company. You can't get apartment internet with AT&T or whatever for reasons. And like as part of the service, they wanted to sell me a whole bunch of stuff. Like they wanted to package basically. You remember how streaming services were supposed to like get rid of cable, and so you didn't have to pay for stuff you didn't want, and you can just get everything for a simple price.
Yeah, and then they ended being that.
Like the packages I was offered was it was literally cable streaming, like a bunch of different options that bundled in a bunch of shit that I would never use, and all packed in like the only things I even wanted were like the ones that were really expensive, and I had to buy like access to Fox News and various other news stations that aren't as awful, and various like ESPN and stuff I will never watch or use. Want me to pay big money for it? I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So I feel less intensely about air fryers than I do about that, but it's roughly the same thing. Oh wait, we were talking about ghouls. I vaguely remember, and what ghouls actually are, or well, that's a very relative term, but the story is,
The only ghoul story I know of is what they are in H.P. Lovecraft's work.
Yeah. Ghouls traditionally are a form of jinn. They're a Middle Eastern spirit that happens to be very closely associated with graves. They ended up leaking into Europe as a sort of corpse-eating monster, which isn't really represented in the text. But, well, that's not exactly... Genies aren't exactly what are represented in European texts anyway, so, Like, I mean, needless to say, the vast majority of ancient Egyptian tombs did not have giant burning stone monsters that happened to be gardeners. So, but like, I think I didn't talked about this in the recording Lost too. Did you know that traditionally that ancient Judaism also believed in jinn?
Yes, I also know that jinn, theoretically in Islam at least, can be converted.
Jinn, yeah, and it's not theoretical. They absolutely can. And we have there are sects that would go to local area, wait, no, never mind. That's Buddhism. And there were Buddhist orders early in the history of the religion that would go to local areas and try to convert the local gods to Buddhism by reading sutras to them. But that's another story. But yeah, there were. Have you ever heard of the name Asmodeus?
Only in the context of D&D.
Yeah, he's the demon one.
And he's a demon. He's in D&D. I believe he's Christian as well, but I don't follow up on that.
He's
story.
goetic. He's from that complicated system of demons and such. But,
Gnosticism.
No, that's different. If you've heard of people talk about the lesser and greater keys of Solomon and various demon summoning textbooks. That's called goeticism. And he showed up a lot there. And basically every demon name you've ever heard of that isn't literally Satan or Lucifer came out of goeticism at some point. But it's complicated. There were a couple of popes who were practicing goetic pagan, goetic summoners, and they would specifically do it to summon and then banish demons to show their holiness. At least according to the legends, But that's another story. I'd have to dig up sources to be able to talk more about that. What I can say is Asmodeus started out as Asmodai, who was a king of the jinn, who was associated with Solomon, again, according to legend, and was converted to Judaism, and brought the jinn in under his rule also into Judaism, and was by all accounts a good practicing Jew. So there's that.
I'm actually just sitting here thinking, what's the to show you're Jewish, you have to have a mark, a sign of the covenant, and that's traditionally for males circumcision. What the hell is it for a jinn?
Probably circumcision on their ghost day, I think.
Okay. I mean,
you don't
go with what works. I mean,
yeah,
don't change the classic.
Yeah, they're creatures. Don't knock. I don't know. I don't know much about jinn anatomy. I think I believe that they're similar to humans in most of essential aspects. So maybe they also have the correct penises to be circumcised.
I remember take this with a grain of salt, because this happened on the traditional games board of 4chan where I go, because it's one of the last places you can go on there without being consumed by crazy political shit. There was a thread some years back where a bunch of people discussed Jewish mythology in the context of Dungeons and Dragons, or like in the context of role-playing games.
Yeah.
And the thing I remember was two Jews getting into a theoretical argument about dolphins.
Yes, I think I remember you talking about this.
If dolphins are sapient, if they can consent and understand, a dolphin could technically become Jewish. But what is it? How does it show the sign of the covenant, and how does it hold the holy day? How does it hold the Sabbath?
Yeah, there's enough foreskin to circumcise, I think. I think, like, the closest you could do is, I think dolphins have a sheath. I don't know, because I'm not familiar with dolphin penises to any great extent. But, circumcising that is a great way to cause health issues, and that's actually something like that. Like, there's a specific doctrine in the Talmud outlawing that.
You can't cause harm.
You cannot, following the basic structure of the Jewish religion cannot cause harm, and if they do, you are explicitly exempt from it. So you can't really, you have to find something else. But then, strictly, most brands of modern Judaism accept women as full members, and you can't exactly circumcise most women either. It's, you just take it on, you just take it on faith to some extent, and it all seems to work out. Again, we haven't gone extinct yet, so we must be doing something right.
I'm just glad no Orthodox Jew ever said, okay, you want to be Jewish and you're a woman, we have to circumcise you. Because that's a whole can of worms that no one wants to open.
They have, and I really don't.
Jesus Christ.
I really do not want to open that can of worms.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Let's just say that there are outlying extremes, and they're not great. And that's not, there are no more
Let's not
mainstream.
talk about this, because I'm very... that'll just make me depressed for
I just want to make the point. I'm trying to make the point that that's just, that is an extreme. That's not something that is accepted in mainline Judaism at all. So,
Well, yeah, it's like, I was reading an article, and I know this pushes against our ban on talking about Israel, but it was about black Israelites.
The Beta Israel, yeah.
No. Beta Israel, I think, is different. I mean, black people who think they're the lost tribe of Israel.
Oh, right. Yeah, they are. Those are different. You're right. Go ahead.
And it was there's a community of them in Israel who've been living there, I think, as Jews. Not like the Ethiopian Jews, but they immigrated in the 70s from America and have been living there illegally, and they're getting deported now. And I read an article on it, and I was like, so first off, you aren't even following Judaism, you just say you're the lost tribe of Israel.
We become enemies.
I just didn't understand the whole concept.
It's complicated.
It was just baffling. It was baffling to me. It's as baffling as those Nation of Islam guys and their weird alien obsession.
Yeah. Well, I think we've hit the point where we've gone too far and started discussing parts of religion we shouldn't be discussing. So I think let's call a moratorium.
Yes,
Okay. So I'm sorry if we're not talking about what's going on, but basically, they're yelling at each other.
Yeah.
And they've been yelling at each other for this entire time. Every time we see them, they're going to be yelling at each other.
It boils down to bad guys move or around each other and threaten each other, and it's been like that for how long is it? About an hour now.
Yeah.
So, the world building is where the writing shines in this game. The plot sometimes, but not always.
No. There is no problem. Good.
Bye, Phil.
Can I just say, speaking of Harry Potter, I always thought it was really a shame we don't see other magical traditions. Because I just think it would be super cool. If it was written by someone other than J.K. Rowling, you could have so many cool different magical traditions. Imagine, I don't know, an exchange where Harry goes to view, I don't know, a Kabbalic school, where they're doing all that sort of stuff. A completely different magical tradition based on a religion and ethnicity he's not familiar with.
Oh, she did that. You didn't hear?
I know she made one of the students Jewish and gave him, like, the most Jewish name ever.
Oh no, she made a whole tradition for
We've been
Native
robbed.
American magic when she was doing the stuff.
Yeah,
with
I
the-
heard it was terrible.
Not usually
Yeah,
a
it was
problem,
the
given
the
our
cardinal
expertise.
sin
They
of
were
Native
many.
American representation,
And
assuming
murderous.
every
We
Native
felt under
American is part of the
circumstances
same
that we had
culture.
little choice but to abandon
And
that
that's
vaccine
the
question.
entirety of that magic system.
They are of the sort
It's just
that should not be
cobbling it all
abandoned
together without
or
any
left
kind of
in
care
enemy
or
hands.
delicacy.
At any cost.
Yeah, that's why I said written by someone other than J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, I
Obviously.
like.
Because if someone competent had that, we would have had a much better story.
Yeah, I mean, man.
Once you grow up, Harry Potter is so disappointing.
Yeah, there's so much around Harry Potter. That's like she can't world build. She just leaves those colossal gaps, and those gaps are what people find interesting. It's kind of like there's a lot of stuff like Star Wars was like that at first. Like George Lucas's world building was so spotty that people rushed in to fill it, and to varying levels of success.
We got the Thrawn trilogy out of it.
We got the Thrawn trilogy. We also got Skippy the Jedi droid, Force-sensitive droid that saved the original trilogy by committing suicide.
I've always had a problem with Star Wars and droids.
I mean, the fact that they keep that the good guys practice chattel slavery is a bit kind of does undermine the core message of those movies.
And more than that, it's that the Force does not recognize droids as being alive, despite the Force being in all living things, including certain formations of crystals.
Yep.
But droids, thinking beings, can't be Force sensitive.
Yeah. Nope. It's extremely arbitrary. And there are crystal I love because I did that Star Wars Life LP for a bit where I had to stop because I was moving, and you can't really LP a board game while you are moving. I drove 12 hours across the country. That's not great LPing, But I remember. Did you read that?
I don't believe I saw it.
Yeah. I talked about. I had a whole thing on. I talked at length. I did what I always do in LPs, which is do a lot of commentary about things I think are interesting, as well as just LPing. I talked a lot about. I think I did do one on droids, or at least they came up. I was talking about. There are. Droids are not Force sensitive, except for the ones that are made out of intelligent crystal beings, so they can walk around and fight people with lightsabers.
My favorite expression of that is in the terrible new Han Solo movie. They made a droid who was very angry about her people's slavery, and they played it as a joke.
Yeah. I mean, look.
And they did. You know why they did that? Solely so they could explain why C-3PO in Episode 2 says, "Your computer knows the most strange dialect."
That's. I gotta admit, I actually like Solo. I didn't think it was a good movie, but I enjoyed it because all those EU references were. I was just sitting there and getting dopamine after dopamine hit after dopamine hit, and it didn't matter what was on the screen. Just that was enough to make it worth the cost of the ticket.
You would love Skywalker Saga, the new Lego Star Wars, because it's nothing but EU and memes.
Yeah, I probably would. I don't know. I don't know what the specs are. Because I have an ancient computer and no consoles, because I'm trying to save money. One day, I hope one day to actually upgrade this old laptop and get. Actually, I could probably. I just have to think about how to get around posting on it and stuff because I don't want to interrupt the LP for it. I may actually want it. Those are thoughts for another time when I'm not actively recording. But yeah, one day maybe.
And we got about 7 minutes left, and then what I'm planning to do, depending on where this video ends, is finish all of the plot stuff and then do all of the side missions. So there will be probably 2 or 3 more videos in this area that's nothing but me doing shit.
Then we can talk more about like I'll find ancient Egyptian nonsense to talk about. So I think
I believe there is a time travel thing where we go back to a 1st century AD Roman city.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see that. That one I have plenty of Roman Egypt specific things to talk about. So I can save
Okay.
that.
Most of the Egypt stuff you're going to want to talk about when we get to the next area, because it's literally just a hidden ancient Egypt city full of
Remind me so I can plan. I know there's like a Roman, even in the main thing, there you hit up a Roman city. I don't think there's anything Greek.
No.
Then that means I can talk about Greek Egypt and Persian Egypt too. And that's enough for a video or two.
Yeah. Go ahead and get those sources ready
I'll
now.
see if I can get those ducks in order.
So we have them for next weekend.
Yeah, and so we'll actually get this back, get the thread back running.
I mean, this goes off to my editor as soon as we're finished here. So
There we go.
it's up to him when he gets it to me, and then I have a better internet connection now. My dad splurged to upgrade the house's internet, so it should upload faster. That YouTube takes forever to. YouTube takes for fucking ever to process a video.
Yeah, that's a new model. I don't think I've seen that one before.
Yeah, that's the Ghoul Priest.
Aha.
Visual tracking initiated.
Did you fight that thing at any point? 'Cause that
We're
obvious
about
monster. Oh, there you go. I've said this before, I will say it again. I will never stop appreciating how this game is just completely unashamed about mixing technology and magic. Even though I don't think this is actually an example. Like, that people will just talk about.
I like the way it does it by merely in the H.P. Lovecraft way of saying it's not magic, it's merely technology that we don't understand.
Kinda. Like, I mean, that's arguable on both counts. But, like, because there's plenty of, like, I wouldn't call Azathoth particularly scientific. Well, I mean, Azathoth is technically just entropy when you get down to it. So I guess I'm wrong on that count. But, like, I really appreciate how the game is just unafraid to, like, have people talking about magic on cell phones. And, like,
it goes places. It goes places and it says interesting things, and that's why I love it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I complained earlier in this video about a lot of the writing in the game, but I will always, and some of the world building's a little questionable just because there's so much of it, and that's not all of it lands, but so much of it is just good. Whether it's
I was rewatching some of our earlier videos, and it got to my favorite character, the priest who is a valued poster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That is absolutely my favorite character. He is a valued poster.
On the Illuminati forums. Yes, he is. God, I can't. You cannot even begin to imagine how awful those forums. That is just.
Oh God! Imagine Illuminati 4chan. Not even Illuminati 4chan. Imagine Secret World 4chan. A shit post will actually make you shit yourself.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that in the Secret World 4chan, Illuminati 4chan, it's just 4chan. It just posts and hits secret messages to each other. And hidden in all the waves of piss. It's just,
You see Goatsy and it's not Goatsy, it's a message.
Yeah, they made, and you have to watch it to gain power and influence in the art. You have to just stare at it and examine it deeply to gain influence. That does sound like the kind of thing an Illuminati agent would do to another Illuminati agent, just because.
And this is where I cut. It is Nasir, where we meet our... Is this a Mariah base, or is this... Yes, this is the Mariah base, where we meet Nasir, who loves action movies.
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Yes, you must be talking to me, because I think we are alone now.
I like
Tell
him.
me, punk, are you
He's
lucky?
fun.
Are you feeling lucky, punk? Oh. When this
Yes.
war is over, I want to be taxi driver in New York City. Safe job. No more explosives.
Clearly, he's never been to New York.
Our enemy, he has no
I mean,
soul.
if he thinks driving in New York is safe and easy,
He
I
never
don't
has
know
to
what
look
to
at
tell
his
him.
reflection. He never has doubts. It is hard, this life. We make it look easy, but it is hard. For thousands of years, the Maria are here, guarding the valley and its secrets. Sons learn from their fathers, daughters from their mothers. Always we are at war. But never like this. Never so many to fight. Never so many tears. It is my job to put on the brave face. But it is hard. Lucky for me, I have war training, eh? Embedded with special forces, hunting Gene in Afghanistan. Like Rambo. They give me the cool sunglasses. And we do not
I
fight
love this
alone.
guy.
We
Yeah.
have new friends. We have you.
Yeah, he is pretty great. And on that note, thank you all for watching. I think we'll see you soon.
Glad to be back.